Kirk Cousins starting to like the money. The Redskins placed the exclusive franchise tag on Kirk Cousins Tuesday. It's the first time in history a team has used the franchise tag twice on the same quarterback. Cousins with this tweet, tag, I'm it. I like that. Shortly after his agent announced the Redskins' decision on Twitter. Now, Cousins will be paid just under $24 million under the tag. So Redskins coach Jake Gruden told reporters today at the NFL Combine that he is hopeful the two sides can still agree on a long-term deal. The Redskins can still trade the quarterback if they choose to, but in that scenario, Washington would have to grant Cousins permission to talk to other teams and work out a long-term deal before a trade likely would be completed. If he were to be traded, Cousins' preferred destination is the 49ers, according to a source close to the quarterback. Stephen A., I want to start with you here. Should the 49ers trade the number 2 overall pick for Cousins?
No, they shouldn't. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. I think that he's shown that he can play. He's clearly better than average. He's passed over 4,000 yards both seasons, just finished throwing for over 4,900 yards this past season. There's no doubt that he's been impressive, but there have been more than a few big moments where there was an APB out for him. You're looking for him. You can't necessarily find him. It's not that he was at fault, like he played like garbage or anything like that, but I'm just talking about when I hear the word franchise, I'm thinking difference maker. And that's not what I see in Kirk Cousins. I see him being a slightly better version than Alex Smith, somebody that can make the requisite passes, do the job, even though he's more turnover prone than an Alex Smith. I'm just thinking of Kirk Cousins, and I wouldn't mind making a long-term investment with him if I'm the Redskins. It's just that when you talk about $100 million or anything like that, I'm scared to make that kind of investment, which is why I somewhat understand what they're doing, even though it's more money than anybody else is getting paid. It's 1 year at a time. The long-term risk is what leaves a little bit of trepidation, and that trepidation that exists within the Redskins tells me something. As Merrill Hodge said on the show yesterday, Tom and Max, there's something that's missing from Kirk Cousins that we may not know, but other people inside that locker room may know. I know that Kyle Shanahan is now in San Fran and all of that, and he wants to work with Kirk Cousins, but I'm just of the mindset that to trade a number 2 overall pick, the only way I would do that if I'm the San Francisco 49ers is if there were no quarterbacks in the draft. And last time I checked, there are at least 2, including Deshaun Watson. I would think about that before I think about Kirk Cousins.
I would always rely on my basic thought with quarterbacks. If your general manager, player personnel guy, your football intelligence people tell you this is the guy, this is your guy, he's your answer for the next 7 to 10 years, then to me there's no price that's too steep to pay. Kirk Cousins, to me, is a better football player than a lot of people give him credit for. 2 years as a starter in the National Football League. Stephen recited some of the stats. He's averaged 27 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in those games. He's throwing for about 4,500 yards per season, quarterback rating about 100. Is he elite? No, I don't think he's elite, but he's a top 10 quarterback in my world, and I think you can win. Top 10? I believe so, yeah.
Kirk Cousins is a top 10
quarterback? Yes, I believe he's a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League.
He's 28 years. Do you want to count the guys ahead of him?
He's 28 years of age, and my thought is you're just beginning to see what he's capable of. Most NFL quarterbacks don't reach.
He'd be my 4th pick in the NFC East. There are only 4 quarterbacks. He'd be 4 out of 4. I'd take Eli, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. I'd take Dak, who's an MVP candidate as a rookie. I'd take Wentz, who I think might be better than Dak.
Oh, no, I wouldn't take Wentz right now.
Oh, well, right now, maybe not, but
listen,
going forward.
You shouldn't have to give up the 2nd pick of the draft for Kirk Cousins because the Washington Redskins have virtually no leverage. But let's just say that he goes out and has a monster year, and the Washington Redskins have a change of heart and decide that we want to sign him to an extension, and one that would pale in comparison or actually make the Andrew Luck contract pale in comparison to this one. Let's say that the Washington Redskins decide we want to franchise him for a 3rd year. Well, now you're not going to be able to get your hands on Kirk Cousins for another 2 seasons. I wouldn't give anything more than the number 2 overall pick. I wouldn't give a sweetener, so to speak. But if Kyle Shanahan thinks this is his guy, and we're starting fresh and we want to start on the right path, the 2nd pick of the draft. Let me give you the 2nd pick of the draft in the last 5 drafts. Okay. Marcus Mariota, Greg Robinson, Luke Jokel, RJ3, Vaughn Miller. Those are number 2 overall picks in 5 of the last 6 drafts. That's a 40% hit rate. The NFL draft is one gigantic crapshoot. So I would suggest that the number 2 overall pick and nothing else wouldn't be too steep for me.
Way too steep for me. Here's the problem. I understand what you mean, kind of theoretically. It's hit or miss. Although if you have the number 2 overall pick in the draft, just the 1st round pick period, and you're just looking for a good player, you don't kind of overplay your hand, overreach, you should be able to find a good player or you're not that competent. If you're looking for a superstar, maybe you can crap out, so to speak. But top 10 quarterback, Kirk Cousins? Rodgers, Brady, Big Ben, Breeze, Luck, Carr. You mentioned Mariota, Winston. Matt Ryan. I mentioned Eli. Phillip Rivers. There are a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't
Phillip
think
Rivers has thrown more interceptions in the second half of the season than the last. At this point,
would you take Kirk Cousins over Phillip Rivers?
Phillip Rivers is 36 years of age. Yes, I would.
You think Mariota's better right now than Kirk Cousins?
Yep.
Right now.
I take Mariota. But look, Kirk Cousins, I think, is a solid quarterback. I will say that. He is a starting NFL quarterback, and there's a lot of value in that. That's like being a starting point guard in the NBA. A solid, average starting point guard is a really good player because there are a lot of really good ones. But he's not that young. He's expensive, and he's not great. So given all those things, if you need him, the only way you trade a first-round pick high up, especially the number 2 overall pick in the draft, is if he is a tipping point for your team that means you can win right now. But when you look at San Francisco...
You're right, because you could get Greg Robinson, an offensive tackle that isn't playing a lick right now at the number 2 overall spot.
Well, that's on you. You got to select wisely or trade down and get multiple, which is what I would do if I was San Francisco.
Is there a quarterback worth the second overall pick in this draft?
That's the point right now, is San Francisco needs so many more things than just a quarterback. Now, you could say, yeah, start with a quarterback. Sure, if he's 22 and he's inexpensive. But when he's 28, he's making $24 million.
You don't have anything. You might as well just not play.
But if you have a quarterback and he's not great and he's already older and he's expensive and he inhibits your ability to...
He's older. He's 28.
28 years old.
He's 28. We're looking at... Okay, I know you're going to say Tom Brady. He's going to be close to 40,
but you only take a guy like that if you're ready. The Niners have so many holes they need to address.
Like quarterback.
Yeah, I would say.
Right, like quarterbacks will get a young guy. Dak Prescott was in his early 20s. Carson Wentz.
I love how everyone loves Matt Ryan, and I'm a BC guy, and I like Matt Ryan a whole lot. But
now,
last year, everyone was suggesting last year that Matt Ryan was just an average quarterback. Kyle Shanahan takes him to another level. Matt Ryan takes him to another level. And I think Kirk Cousins in Kyle Shanahan's offense in San Francisco may become Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's in his, early to mid-30s?
Mm-hmm. So he's got sometimes it works out that way and you find a Rich Gannon. Usually it doesn't, but sometimes it does. And I will say this. If you believe that Kyle Shanahan turns Kirk Cousins into Matt Ryan, then sure, I would trade for him too.
Matt Ryan turned the football over 21 times last year. 16 interceptions, 5 fumbles, and a lot of those interceptions were in the red zone. I love Matt Ryan. But in the second tier of quarterbacks in the National Football League, you go from a really good year to a pretty average year back to a really good year. That's just the nature of the beast.
How has Kirk Cousins played with the money on the line?
What did he have? 25 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions?
With the money on the line.
He had bad defense supporting him, a very moderately
good offensive team.
Ranked rushing attack.
He had weapons. He had weapons, and he's okay. You know what Kirk Cousins is? At best, middle-of-the-pack quarterback, which is a nice player. 28 years old and expensive. You're going to give up the number 2 pick in the draft for him?
I would. Yeah. It's always a gamble. We've seen that. Tom, thank you so much for being with us. Always fun when Max Kellerman's all over you. Why does Russell Westbrook's performance last night have someone rethinking their MVP pick this season? They will explain that after the break.
What's going on? This is Kevin Hart, a.k.a. Long Face Little Body. And right now, you're watching my favorite show. I'm talking about First Take without Stephen A. Smith.
Has been deserted. The New York Jets informed the cornerback that he's being released, ending his second tenure with the team. He clears about $9.3 million on the Jets' 2017 salary cap. It also comes 11 days after he was charged with 4 felonies, including aggravated assault stemming from his alleged role in a street fight in his hometown of Pittsburgh. Revis releasing the following statement on Twitter. I can't thank Woody Johnson and the entire Jets organization enough for taking a chance on me in 2007. I played some of my greatest football in green and white. Jet Nation has always been behind me and teammates. Without all of you, there would be no Revis Island. I love you, New York. Bittersweet, Darren Woodson. Just like your experience on this show is regularly. How
bittersweet. You're right about that.
Right?
Sweet during the regular season, bitter during the playoffs.
Here you go, Max. Bring it on up.
I do like the tie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We don't want to get your mic messed up.
Okay,
As you get that adjusted, I'm going to focus on you here, Max.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're good. What do we think about Revis? Is he done?
Revis Island is done. But that's been done. Who didn't know Revis Island was done going into the season? He was over the way Peyton Manning in his last season was no longer Peyton Manning. Derek Jeter was no longer Derek Jeter. Kobe Bryant was no longer Kobe Bryant. 60-point last game notwithstanding. Revis going into the season, that dude is gone, never to return. Yeah. But is he done?
What about Revis Light? Is he
done as an NFL player? Look at how the game is played nowadays. All 4 of the final 4 offenses were operating at peak effectiveness with 5 guys spread out in pass routes, right? Like, that's how it is. So you need as many guys as possible in your defensive backfield who can cover. So can Revis have value? Would you take a flyer on him as your 4th corner? Or whatever you want to call that, right?
Or does he move?
Yeah, he's still an NFL player. He's just not the Darrelle Revis that we've all come to know. That guy is gone never to return. But he's not done as an NFL player if he's willing to play for less money.
That's it. Is he willing to play for less money? If he's willing to play for less money, yes, he'll have someone. Listen, someone's going to call during training camp because they're going to lose a corner here and there. And Revis is not a guy that's probably going to go through an entire training camp. You don't need him to do that. But I still think there's something left in the tank. Is he? I think Max is right. Is it Revis Island? No, and it hasn't been for the last 2 years. But he's a guy that can come in as a veteran player and teach a lot of young corners how to play this game. Now, what's made Revis such a great player is not his athleticism. It's his ability to work you at the line of scrimmage. He's a technician, and he can teach a lot of young players that same technique. I think the guy still has something left. He will be on the roster somewhere. It's just, will he accept the money that's thrown his way?
Well, first of all, to address Darren's point about the money, consider the fact that even though Darrelle Revis is not going to receive the $2 million bonus he was scheduled to receive if he were on a roster, they still owe him $6 million. Because of the guaranteed contract that he signed. The $70 million, about $39 million was guaranteed. They owe him $6 million for 2017 anyway. So he's still getting that money. So when you're talking about Darrelle Revis saying accepting less from somebody else, it would be less on top of the $6 million that the Jets still have to dole out to him, even though he's not going to be playing for them, according to the reports. Now, to answer the question directly, is Revis done? I would tell you, yes, he is done. And here's why I would say that he's done. Because if the reports are true, and they seem to be, because they're coming from everywhere, he didn't want to play football anymore. And when you're at that level on the NFL, I'm showing deference and respect to the Darren Woodsons of the world and others. You know a gazillion times more than I could ever hope to, Darren, how tough it is to play this game. When you don't want to play, not only are you somebody who shouldn't be playing, you shouldn't be around those who are playing. Because if you don't want it for you, how are you going to want it for them? I'm not saying forever, but I do think that it's reached a point where we have to look at Darrelle Revis, and what we need to gauge first is the intestinal fortitude and the pride that he has inside that chest of his in order to bring something out to remind everybody you don't want to go out this way. But if you don't care because you made over $100 million from the Jets alone, because you have secured your future monetarily, and you've lived up to that mantra of being the mercenary that you were known to be, if you're that dude and you're content, then you have no place around football for the immediate future, and the Jets will have done the right thing by lacking sentimentality and deciding to let you go. Revis is Revis. We know one Revis, and that was being an elite corner. So when we ask the question, is he done? Of course he's done, because he's no longer seen that way, and it's primarily due to the fact that he no longer wants it, according to numerous reports from numerous individuals who...
You like that? You like that? You like that? You like that?
Kirk Cousins starting to like the money. The Redskins placed the exclusive franchise tag on Kirk Cousins Tuesday. It's the first time in history a team has used the franchise tag twice on the same quarterback. Cousins with this tweet, tag, I'm it. I like that. Shortly after his agent announced the Redskins' decision on Twitter. Now, Cousins will be paid just under $24 million under the tag. So Redskins coach Jake Gruden told reporters today at the NFL Combine that he is hopeful the two sides can still agree on a long-term deal. The Redskins can still trade the quarterback if they choose to, but in that scenario, Washington would have to grant Cousins permission to talk to other teams and work out a long-term deal before a trade likely would be completed. If he were to be traded, Cousins' preferred destination is the 49ers, according to a source close to the quarterback. Stephen A., I want to start with you here. Should the 49ers trade the number 2 overall pick for Cousins?
No, they shouldn't. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. I think that he's shown that he can play. He's clearly better than average. He's passed over 4,000 yards both seasons, just finished throwing for over 100 yards this past season. There's no doubt that he's been impressive, but there have been more than a few big moments where there was an APB out for him. You're looking for him.